Manufacturing costs. So we're going to first look at the two types of influences on costs. One is fixed and the other is variable. Fixed are unchanging: rent, heat, light, etc. All those things that you have to actually operate a facility. Variable would be the labor, how much you're going to pay people and how many employees you might have. Costs of what the materials are. If you're making something out of plastic and you're making a whole bunch of them, then what is the price of the raw plastic pellets? Same thing goes for energy costs. Energy costs are constantly changing, usually going up. So those would all be variable costs. Materials good costs. If you are purchasing machinery, then it might cost more, but it also might produce more depending on the type of machine you get. So that may be a cost that is a lot more upfront, but there's a big benefit for it. Raw materials will vary by market and kind of depending on where you live. If you live in Nevada and you're trying to find lumber, trying to find trees, not a whole lot of trees growing in the desert. So the cost for lumber might be a little bit more there versus in Washington State where there's lots of trees and they're big, and they probably can produce lumber. So material good costs definitely affect. Labor is the third one. Wages will vary based on skill and experience. Overtime is generally more expensive, and you always need to look at value-added versus non-value-added tasks. So if you're looking for labor, you may choose to hire someone who has got a whole lot more experience and they're really just a lot faster worker, but then that's going to cost a whole lot more because they have the experience. If you hire somebody that is young and new, they may not have the skills necessary, so a lot has to go into training, but they're also a whole lot cheaper. So looking here again at value added versus non-value added.
Lean manufacturing is a deliberately simple way of thinking about customer value and how your operations can build that value in the most efficient way possible. Lean asks you to think of your manufacturing operations as a value stream that flows products to your customer. Some of your activities add value, others just add waste. Value is anything that your customer will pay for. Waste is anything that adds costs your customer would not pay for. This can be overproduction of finished goods or work in process, excess transport and handling, scrap and rework, or wasted time while people and goods wait for things to happen. As you work to drive out waste and flow your product more quickly through the value stream, your operation becomes less costly and more responsive to customer demand.
So let's look at time cost. Time has many different impacts. Customer deadlines have to be met. Worker hours might have to increase if production slows. Also, materials can be wasted because they have a shelf life. So if you have to produce something in a certain amount of time because you guarantee it, then you may have to ask workers to work overtime, and then that's going to cost you a little bit more. So there's also time costs involved. And last is shipping costs. The cost per unit can be affected by how you ship it. If you ship it by boat, it's usually the least expensive because you can get a lot on it, but it's very slow. Trains and trucks might be a little bit more expensive, and they can get there relatively quick. Airplanes are probably the most expensive, but they can get there really quick internationally. But since weight is such a premium on an airplane because it's hard to fly things that are heavy, or it's costly to, then it's just going to cost a whole lot more if you want to get something shipped via a plane. So for that reason, the distance from the manufacturing plant to whatever it is you're trying to ship or sell is a really important factor. You wouldn't want to build a lumber mill in Nevada in the desert. You'd want to build it right next to where all of your lumber resources are, which might be in Washington State in the Northwest with a lot of trees. So distance to the plant is important so that raw materials get shipped there at the least expensive cost, and then whoever's buying them, then you can pass that shipping cost on to them as a manufacturing company. So I think that's it.